As I've mentioned in a previous video, it is human tendency to attack the messenger instead of looking at the message. There is nothing wrong with the message of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The only message of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam is to exhort people to the worship of the one true God. Now, it is very interesting to note that throughout the life of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the Christians have never tried to dismantle the concept of this exhortation to the worship of the one true God. Going back to the life of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, we know that he married his first and only wife Khadijah during the early phase of his mission. When Khadijah radiallahu anha passed away in Mecca, the Prophet did not marry anyone else for a time. Only after he made his migration or the hijrah to Medina did he actually consider remarry again. So most of these marriages were political alliances. We know that Christians always try to attack the marriage of Aisha radiallahu anha to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So they refer to the hadith of Bukhari. I don't have to repeat it, I think. I believe most of the viewers, including the non-Muslims, already know what the hadith say. Basically, the hadith say that Aisha was betrothed at 6 years old and she was married to the Prophet when she was 9. The Christians will try to say that this marriage is morally deficient because the Prophet married a 9-year-old. But the problem with their assertion is that there is a time period between the time that Aisha radiallahu anha was betrothed when she was 6, right up to age 9, where she was accepted or she started to live into the household of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. One interesting of note to point out is that the enemies of Islam, especially the early Orientalists and Christian missionaries, beginning from the time of John of Damascus, who has written polemical stuff and very misleading and false information about Islam, right up to the early 20th century, none of them has ever mentioned about the marriage of Aisha radiallahu anha to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Because until today, we can still see certain countries like Thailand, like China even, and in India, and certain remote places, even in Africa, which practices the custom of marrying off their women at puberty. This is actually a cultural thing. It is not a problem of morality. It is a common practice for those societies to marry off women when they reach puberty. In this latest mischievous video of his, he has again resorted to trickery, manipulation, and deception. I guess I should not be too surprised because this is totally in line with what Paul has done in Romans chapter 3 verse number 7 and 1 Corinthians chapter number 9 verse 20. This is totally consistent with the Christian methodology of deception. It is not something new to me and I'm not totally surprised about it. As it is usual in the case of past Christian deception, David Wood has put words into my mouth. He has made me say things which I did not mean to say or which I have not said. I will not fall for his trap. I will not play to his game. Instead, let us deal directly with the issue that he has raised in his video, namely the issue of the so-called poisoning of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So, let us deal directly with his claims. In his relatively entertaining but silly and malicious video, David Wood has again played with the words of aorta. David Wood claims that when I say that when he uses the word aorta in the Quran and compares it with the word aorta in the Hadith, that is not a fallacy of equivocation. I need to inform you, David Wood, that again, you are committing the same mistake that I have pointed out in my previous introduction video, which is you have manipulated the word aorta in the Quran and you compare it with the word aorta in the Hadith, even though in the Arabic both words are totally different and has been mistranslated into aorta from the Arabic into English. So it is a fallacy of equivocation because you have no clue as to what the original Arabic is for the Hadith, and you do not have a clue what the original Arabic word is used in the Quran. So anyway, the reason why I decided to make this very quick video, even though I'm 200 kilometers away from Kuala Lumpur, is because I want to deal with this issue that Wood has raised, namely the issue of poisons. What type of poisons were used in this so-called incident at Khaybar, where the Prophet was said to have eaten a piece of meat that contained this poison? Now, to deal with this issue, I will need to give a brief breakdown of what actually happened at Khaybar. So, the Prophet ﷺ had just returned from a campaign of victory at Khaybar, where the Jews of Khaybar had violated the treaty and they were declaring war against the Muslims. So the Muslims have invaded and captured the city. While the Prophet and his companions were leaving the city, a Jewish woman approached him and invited him for a dinner. David Wood tries to make a polemic out of this, but this is actually customary in Arab culture. So, to continue, the Prophet was invited to this lady's home with a companion. So they had this meal, and while they were eating the meat, unknown to them, the meat that they were eating was poisoned. A miracle happened whereby the Prophet was warned that the meat had poison. So the Prophet immediately spit out his meat. However, the companion of the Prophet ﷺ who was with him, Bishr, he died immediately after eating or after he consumed the meat. So from this story alone, we can see how potent the poison was. Meaning, once you consume it, you will die immediately. There is no after effects, there is no nothing is mentioned about the type of poison, but it is clear that the poison is very potent in effect. Clearly, the person who used this particular poison intended to kill her enemies once the poison is consumed.